All schools in Wisconsin will soon require students to take financial literacy classes after a bipartisan bill was passed and signed into law by Governor Evers. Today, a teenager from West Pere talks about the impact and his efforts to push for the legislation. In a First Alert update, Jamal James also explains why there was some pushback from a handful of lawmakers.
Come 2028, high school students will now be required to take at least one semester of financial literacy before receiving their diploma. You can expect to take courses like money management, investing, and dealing with issues involving debt.
I hope that they take out, maybe I shouldn't be spending so much money.
Experts say credit card balances for people like you and me have reached a record high of $1 trillion this year, with Gen X holding the highest average in credit card debt. Before being signed by the governor, the bill passed through legislature, with only one member of the Assembly and 4 members of the Senate voting no. This was mainly due to the concerns about the mandate for the financial literacy being unfunded by the state. However, some students express how important this course is.
We were being required to take physical education and English and science and all these important classes, but I thought to myself, why aren't we being required to take a class that we will absolutely need in our future?
Chase Yells of West Pere spoke before legislatures during public hearings, and he believes that in doing so, helped highlight the issues and needs for this type of education. Reporting from West Pere, Jamal James, Action 2 News.